dealing with rejection in a estate agency. Today, I'm joined by Elle Wood, who's very well known on social media in the estate agency circles. Thanks for joining me today, Elle.
Thanks for having me.
Dealing with rejection. I know you used to be an estate agent and now you're an estate agency supplier. And before we switched the cameras on, we talked about the fact that, when you lose a listing, it's like a knife twisted in your heart. And you also say that, in the line of business you're in, when someone rejects you or it says that your services haven't worked, it feels like a knife's bit gone through your heart. Let's go through those feelings. Why, how do you feel when someone says something like that?
I personally find it really difficult. And people say to you, oh, you mustn't take it personally if you're upset. But it's really hard not to take it personally when it's you, either a listing, for example, when you're on an MA, because it's you that's done the presenting. So it can feel really hard not to take that personally. And now in a supplier position, if someone says after a while, oh, we don't want to work with you anymore for these various reasons, but that's really challenging because you put your heart and soul into working for them. And
okay, do you think though that it's a criticism of you as a person or a criticism of the techniques, or in the case of evaluation when you've lost it, that you haven't done well enough?
Yeah, I've always found it really hard to separate the two. I understand in principle that they are two completely separate things, but actually absorbing that is not something I've achieved. I have to consciously think about the fact of that rather than it being something that I'm able to just absorb and go, oh, well, that doesn't matter.
I mean, let's be honest, most estate agents on the scale are more people orientated as opposed to process driven, and they're more outward going as opposed to reserved. So they're outward going people, and those people have certain skill sets that they're good on the proverbial sofa, and they use those skills to attract and secure the business. The downside is that, by the sounds of it, is that you probably fall into that category of that type of personality, which most valuers and listers do. The downside is that the other side of the coin, the black side, the black part of your brain, is that you fear the rejection.
Yeah.
And it's like you put 100 houses on the market and then you lose 101 and go, ah! Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're like a dog, you go into that black dog moment. Yeah. And did you get any better at it in your time as an estate agent?
I did, definitely, because I followed the process. I am absolutely committed to the process, and whatever that was at the time, and however it got tweaked as well, because obviously you're constantly honing. But I think if you find the right process and you tweak it as the market moves, as the zeitgeist moves and all of that kind of thing, then actually I found my conversion rate was so high that when I did lose one, I could probably identify why, and it was never really to do with me or the process.
So do you think you could probably bring that into your current role as an estate agency supplier?
Yeah, I do try to, definitely.
But obviously not as far as when you were an estate agent.
Yeah, I think the difference is that as an estate agent, I was part of a team of people where after I'd got the listing, and maybe I'm doing viewings and things like that, but sales progression, for example, would definitely not be my wheelhouse. So someone else would take over that bit. And that's sort of the account management side of things in a way.
But we'll bring it back. We're talking about rejection. How do you said that you got better at it in a estate agency. Could you not get better at it as a supplier?
I don't know, because it all falls on my shoulders now.
Okay, but it always has fallen on your shoulders. We all have to take personal responsibility,
I suppose.
Don't we?
Yeah.
It's hard work, isn't it?
I think it's just different because it's my business now. It's all mine. It's my team. Whereas before I was only a
cog.
Hold on
a second. But as a valuer, it was always on your shoulders to get the listing. It's no different.
Yeah.
There is no difference. I think the advice it's just not advice, opinion is when everything's your fault and the world becomes a better place. If it's all your fault, the simple fact is this: if as a supplier someone rejects your business, then do you know that your processes with regard to what you sell, and it's the same for you guys in a estate agency, is did they follow the process, the ones that reject you or not? more, not more.
Yeah.
If you could,
More often than not, they haven't followed my process.
well, then my advice to you and any estate agency suppliers watching this is don't take it personally. And probably the best of is say up front, for this to work, you need to follow the processes. If you don't follow the processes, it's not going to work and you're not going to succeed at this. And if you don't succeed, don't come back to me in 6 months' time saying it ain't going to work. And the analogy I use is that I supply you the bullets and tell you where to fire them. But if you don't fire the weapons, it ain't going to work.
I think that's absolutely true. I think I have been really guilty as a supplier, and it, like I say, as it being my own business, of not being as assertive with those facts, and I should be. But sometimes I let my nerves get the better of me, I think. But within a state agency, because I felt like I had a boss telling me what to do, then I would absolutely believe in them. So I was much more committed to it, I think.
Then we need to all start believing in ourselves a bit better.
I think that's probably the truth.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for showing a bit of vulnerability today. It's so refreshing to see, and just set your stall out at the start. Tell people what they need to do. You're supplying the bullets, telling them where to fire it. If they're not doing it, then it's their fault, not yours. It's nothing to do with you. You're a beautiful person. Nothing to do with the fact that you haven't fired the weapon. Thank you for your time today, Elle.